So I figured it was about time to do another update on the P09s because in my primary training pistol I've exceeded 4,000 rounds. I'm actually at 4,037 rounds. Yeah, I know, I keep that much of an exact count, but when you load your own ammo, it's not that hard to keep count because you don't really count by the case, you count by whatever it is that you load. So I like to know what I'm shooting. So anyway, let's get into this. A couple of things. So 4,000 rounds. Nothing has really changed in the performance of the pistol. I have not gone ahead and cleaned it since the last cleaning. So it's still pretty disgusting. There's no real additional wear on the actual pistol. I mean, again, you can see that we're starting to get a little bit of silver wear. Again, around the slide lock here, that was there, you know, at 2,300 rounds when I made the last video, or 2,800, whichever one it was. I think it was 23. So again, you know, as this comes in and out of the holster, as I practice, we're going to continue to get some wear on this metal part, simply because of the design of the holster. There is a channel there, but as you know, anything that's raised or protruding off of the side of a gun that's in a holster will eventually see some wear just because of the way it goes in and out. At the front of the muzzle here on the actual frame, we're still getting wear on the actual plastic. I don't think we're going to be able to avoid that. You can see, or I hope you can see, that it's sort of kind of burnishing itself as it again comes in and out of the holster. So that's just going to be one of these things that we're going to have to continue watching as we go along. But again, over 4,000 rounds, tons of dry fire with this thing, so that's a lot of presentations, and we're really not suffering from any kind of like crazy wear. You know, as far as like the actual thickness of the plastic changing, there being huge divots in the plastic, or even breakage. So again, we're doing pretty good in that regard. So 4,000 rounds down the tube, and we're still holding up pretty good. I mean, the other side of the gun by the serial number plate is doing fairly well, you know, as is. So I'm not too worried about any kind of extreme wear on the frame. But again, 50,000 rounds down the road, we may think otherwise. So let me break down the pistol. We'll talk about what's going on inside of it, and we'll take the video from there. All right, so there was a question about how to break these down. There are a couple of videos on YouTube, but you know, while we're talking, I might as well just go ahead and show how it's done. So make sure that you're clear, no magazine in the gun, chamber's clear. Let's go ahead and retract the slides slightly. We're going to take the corner of our mag. We're going to line up these two lines right here. Then we're just going to go ahead and press. So the slide catch will retract slightly, and then you just pull it straight out. From here, you're going to have to go ahead and press or push the slide off of the frame. So now we've got our three separate parts: magazine, frame, slide lock, and slide, four separate parts. And we can take a look at what's going on inside. Now, while I don't clean the gun all that often, I do definitely keep it lubed, and I use my own blend of a grease and a lubricant, motor oil, basically synthetic motor oil, with a wheel bearing grease that seems to work just fine. And to be honest with you, it's cheap. I really don't feel like spending, you know, 10 bucks on, you know, something made in a Navy SEAL's basement. I really honestly don't believe that it's any better. And I've shot a shit ton of rounds through a lot of guns, and I haven't really had any shortcomings in my lubricant. You know, back in the day when I first started shooting, I used to lubricate my AR-15s with CLP. And CLP is great, but you know, you'd notice that within 100 rounds, it would essentially cook off. So CLP is fine, but you know, if you do like to get your guns hot, you're probably going to want to go ahead and use something that's really built for a much higher temperature, which motor oil is. You know, if I can run my car at 90 miles an hour consistently, wait, let me rephrase that. I don't run my car at 90 miles an hour because I don't speed. But if I can follow the speed limit on the highway and, you know, run it sustained for basically, you know, 4 or 5 hours, 6, 7 hour trips, I'm pretty sure motor oil would be good enough for a gun that's going to come out of the holster, shoot a couple of bill drills, you know, maybe in 10 minutes run 200-300 rounds through it, just running bill drills over and over again if that's what you're working on that particular day. I think motor oil is going to be just fine. But anyway, this isn't really about lubricants. So we've got the internals of the gun right here. It is dirty. As we discussed in the other video, there was a little bit of peening on the front locking block. There is nothing really going on with the slide. The rails on the actual slide are looking pretty darn good. There's no metal where it shouldn't be. Everything was as it basically came out of the box. Obviously, this is definitely wearing in, and what I mean by that is going from a brand new gun to this one, the locking block and the slide rails have essentially worked in together. So the two surfaces have mated very well, and the gun that I've shot the most is significantly smoother when you rack the slide than the newer guns. It's definitely not a bad thing because it just makes the overall experience that much more pleasurable. If any of you guys have experience with 1911s where you're essentially, running very long frame rails with a slide that's fit to those frame rails, you have a very, very, very smooth operating gun. Most of us know that shoot a lot of these plastic pistols, they don't quite feel as smooth as the 1911 can, provided it's fit well. But this gun is smooth enough, and it feels good when you rack the slide, and it has definitely gotten a little bit easier versus the gun that hasn't been shot as much. So looking at the frame, again, we had that little bit of peening right here on that locking block. Nothing has really changed at all, so that is a good thing. I'm very pleased with that. And it appears as though the gun is holding up well. Again, we just go ahead and apply some lubricant and keep it running wet, and everything is chugging along just fine. Since that 2300 round update, all the way up to 4000, no stoppages in the gun. It's run just fine. No light strikes. So a couple of things to note. 13-pound hammer spring is still the original. It has not been changed out. So we've got over 4,000 actual ignitions on this, and countless dry fire in double action on this spring, and as far as I can tell, it's still holding up just as well as it did right from day one. So I'm very pleased with that. I don't plan on changing that spring until I start having frequent light strikes, and like I said, nothing so far, so no real need to change it out. Same original Cajun Gunworks reduced power trigger spring in here. No need to really change that out. I do watch these. Sometimes I think that I should change them between 5,000 and 10,000 rounds just because of the amount of live fire and dry fire that I do. But you know what? These are not carry guns. They're game guns. I have a backup. I will probably, again, just for the sake of YouTube science, I will probably run this trigger spring until it actually breaks. So that's the way that goes, and other than that, I'm just going to keep running these guns, pushing them hard, and seeing what I can get out of them. Now, I do have 2 additional videos coming along that I'm going to make detailing 2 other things, 1 change to the pistol, and 1 thing that I would encourage everybody out there that's shooting these to do. So those videos are coming, but for now, that's essentially my update after 4,000 rounds total on this particular pistol, and everything is wonderful. Now, one last thing that I do want to add. At some point, I may, and there's heavy emphasis on may, consider polishing the top of the guide rail here in the actual frame. And the reason why is because I don't know if it's my ammo or if it's just the actual design of of how the pistol feeds, but the rounds in the magazine sit a little high, and you can see prior to me wiping it off that there was actually a lot of brass on the on this guide rail here, and this is actually what feeds the round into the chamber at the front here. There's a leading edge that actually picks up the next cartridge when it's time to feed it into the actual chamber. And one thing that I've noticed is that there's actually a lot of tension on top of the brass casing, i.e. the loaded bullet, when it's sitting in the magazine. And I do feel like there may be a little bit of excess friction there between the top of the bullet and this actual guide rail here. So I may polish that. I know that a lot of gunsmiths will do that. The shadows actually come with that polish from CZ Custom. The only reason why I haven't done it is simply because the entire slide is melanited, and it's actually a very hard protective coating. It's almost like a kind of a candy shell coating, only it does penetrate into the surface of the metal. And for me to polish that, I'd be removing all of the benefits of the melanite. So I'm not really sure if I want to do that, but it is some food for thought. On the CZ Shadows, on a stainless steel pistol, let me make that a little bit clearer. On the CZ Shadow that has the polycoat is a very terrible finish, so you can get through it really easily. On a stainless steel pistol that has no surface treatment done to it, you just simply take your stones and polish it out. But again, because we have the melanite finish on this, I'm not really sure if I want to go ahead and do that. So that's the only thing that I've been considering as far as changing. So there you go. For over 4,000 rounds, 4,037 rounds. And we're doing pretty good on this, and I'm very pleased. So if you guys have any questions about anything in particular you want to see, by all means let me know, and I'll see if I can get some close-ups on it. But again, we've got a lot of lube, a lot of dirt in there, looking pretty nasty and grimy, but no issues at all. So I'm going to keep shooting this thing. Thanks for watching, guys.